Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Paul Fredenberg, Brigadier General, retired U.S. Army, Executive Vice President for National Security and Defense at AFCEA International.
All right, good morning. Hope everybody's had their coffee today. We're going to kick it off here. First session this week in our Operations in Focus stage. So we're here to discuss during this session keeping pace with the evolving warfare environment to field disruptive capabilities and overcome our adversaries. Critical topic as we move forward with our critical capabilities in the DoD. But before we get started, I want to take a moment here to thank Mantech. We know that these sessions, these events would not happen without the great sponsorships of our industry partners. And so Mantech is represented this morning by Julie Vita, Vice President for Growth in the Public Sector. And I'd like to invite Julie up to the stage to say a few words. Come on up, Julie.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to West 2025. As Paul said, I'm Julie Vita. I'm the Vice President of Defense Growth at Mantech. Cyber has been part of our capability offering since the beginning of the company's history for about over 55 years. And our cyber workforce today develops and delivers differentiated offerings that support full spectrum cyber operations. So delivering timely and credible offensive cyber and also improving defensive cyber operations. Transitioning to an operationally resilient cyber model that includes disruptive capabilities allows America's critical infrastructure to withstand the constant activity of our adversaries and enables agencies to minimize potential impact to their operations. So this panel today brings together leaders to examine how we are fielding new disruptive capabilities and transforming operations to meet the threats and keep up with adversary capabilities. It's an important discussion for all of us as we face the continuous and growing threats that challenge our nation's security. So let's get started. On behalf of AFCEA International and the U.S. Naval Institute, I'm pleased to welcome you to this panel moderated by Lieutenant General Matthew Glavy, United States Marine Corps, retired.
Hurrah. Thank you so much, Julie, and thank you to Mantech for this great sponsorship. Now, at this time, I also have the distinct honor just to take a moment here and recognize the winners of this year's Copernicus Award. The Copernicus Award was established back in 1997 by AFCEA and the U.S. Naval Institute to recognize members of the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Coast Guard who show sustained superior performance in C4I and IT-related jobs. The Copernicus winners, along with other awardees, are going to be recognized individually this afternoon in a private ceremony. But I would like to ask that this year's Copernicus Award winners that are here, if you could please stand up so that we can give you recognition today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these are the teammates that are helping to accelerate the integration and capabilities that are so much needed in our sea services today. And so thank you very much for that. I look forward to meeting all of you this afternoon, your guests, along with your commanding officers. So once again, congratulations and thank you. Okay, now I have the pleasure of introducing the moderator of today's panel, Lieutenant General Matthew Glavy, U.S. Marine Corps, retired. And I know that he is the right person to host this panel because I sat through many a cup with him on the distant screen, and he always had the question which caused us all to think the hardest. So I will tell you, sir, it's been an honor to serve with you there. But I know you have some good questions for your panelists today. General Glavy was commissioned through the Naval Academy. He proudly served until just very recently retiring this past year. Among his many assignments were Commanding General of 2nd Marine Air Wing, Commanding General, the Marine Corps Forces Cyberspace Command, where I had the pleasure of serving with him under U.S. Cyber Command. And then most recently, prior to his retirement, he served as a Deputy Commandant for Information. General Glavy, skirt. I appreciate all of the panelists being here today, and now I turn it over to you, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Paul, thanks. Heck, we could have a Cybercom staff meeting. We got Clap. I think I saw Jay Matos out there. And what he really meant to say is I was a pain in the ass. I think he meant roast when he said it. Hey, thanks, everybody. And thanks for recognizing those Copernicus Award winners. I always attended that event when we formally give those awards across, and nothing finer than recognize the people who actually make this a reality. I mean, they're the ones who do all the work. They're the ones who bring this to fruition and make an outcome out of it. I do want to thank AFCEA International, the Naval Institute as well, General Lawrence, Admiral Spicer. So grateful for their support in putting this together. It's my 6th time here. I don't think I've done anything 6 times in my life to include birthdays and holidays with my family, but the fact I've been here 6 times is pretty special. You know, last year when we had this event, a lot of crazy things going on. But if you can remember back that only a year ago, but there was this crazy idea that Ukrainians were souping up jet skis, right? And putting 500-pound explosives on board and just chasing the Black Sea fleet back into port, doing sea control probably as well as my fleet admiral friends here could possibly think of. It was crazy and disruptive imagination, innovation, and ultimately outcomes. You know, those things, they come and go. I think that's the nature of technology. What works for a week or two, heck, may not work the week after that. I mean, that's the problem that we find ourselves in. So what would be this year's event that's so disruptive in nature? And me and Clapp were talking about it and probably disagreed on it. But if Admiral Kohler was talking about it this morning. Wall Street Journal came out with an article over the weekend, right? This whole Chinese startup called DeepSeek was able to put a large language model together to match up, come close to what some of our best products are here in the United States. And that's not an issue in of itself, but the fact they did it for $6 million instead of, ready for this, $6 billion. And if anybody's done the math on that, I know my Navy postgraduate school friends have, but that's 1/1000th the cost. If that isn't disruption, you don't know what is. So we'll see how it all plays out, but that's the world we live in, right? Things are changing and changing ever so fast. So fortunately, we have this amazing team here on the stage, myself not included, that's going to talk a little bit about this. I just want to introduce them real quick, all 3 of them, and then we'll turn this mic over to them. First is to my left, Vice Admiral Carl Thomas, KT, as he's known throughout the fleet. He's the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Information Warfare and also the Director of Naval Intelligence, a graduate of Rensselaer Polytechnical Institute, home of the engineers. No slouch there. Admiral Thomas, not only being an incredible carrier aviator and all the time on board those ships, has also commanded ships. USS Mount Whitney, the USS Abraham Lincoln, the USS Carl Vinson, also CSG-5. Again, also ends up being the Fleet Admiral commanding U.S. 7th Fleet. So deep experience in so many of the things we're going to talk about. Second is Admiral Clapperton, Clapp, as we know him so well, Craig Clapperton. He is a graduate of Penn State University. We are.
Penn State.
Right, good. He's the current commander of 10th Fleet and Fleet Cyber. Also, a lot of carrier aviation time, expending lots of time, again, probably in the most dangerous environment the Joint Force operates in. Again, we're so fortunate to have Clapp with the team as well. He's commanded USS Mount Whitney, USS Theodore Roosevelt, and Carrier Strike Group 12. So a lot of experience here. Finally, last but not least, probably with so much of experience as well, especially in this environment, is Captain Colin Corden. Colin is the Deputy Director of the U.S. Navy's Disruptive Capabilities Office. Colin is a graduate, and I love this, part of my introductions here, of the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, home of the Buccaneers. There you go. He's commanded the Fort Worth, the USS Manchester, USS Cincinnati, and probably as important, Task Force 59, along with the commander of 5th Fleet, Brad Cooper, and some of the amazing stuff they did, which we've talked about extensively. What I want to bring to bear, if you saw this in these intros, is all these admirals have senior leaders have commanded at sea. Probably our most hazardous environment. What seems so simple is so complex and complicated. Mother Nature has a vote when you're high in the high seas, and never in my naval aviation time did I ever suspect that the captain of the ship was always driving the ship, could be a beautiful day, into where the clouds were to make sure we had plenty of rain, maybe a 3-degree roll, 2-degree pitch, 5-degree roll, stuff like that. But it is a hazardous environment, unforgiving, and not for the faint of heart. So with that, we got a warrior ethos up here. I'm going to turn the mic over to KT, and we're going to go down the line for some initial opening comments. KT.
Yeah, thanks, Kurt. We kind of were asked to talk a little bit about some of the key challenges that we're facing today in the new era of warfare. And when I look at the landscape, I always think about battle space. It's kind of ingrained in my background. And I think the key word I would use in the challenges that we're facing is speed. The speed of technological innovation, the speed of information flow. One of the, I think everybody in this audience has probably read CNO's NAV plan. I think it's a very solid, centering document, and it really harnesses many of the things that we're looking at as key to the future fight. And so if you think about the speed of information flow, Fight from the Mach is highlighted in her NAV plan, where all that information is going to come to bear. We fight as a fleet. We recognize distributed maritime operations as a way that we're going to tactically maneuver. We recognize that we need to work across all domains and bring that information flow at the right time to get the right effects. And so harnessing all that at the speed of the changing battle space is one of our key challenges. I think also the fact that we're seeing such a proliferation of sensors out there, it works on both sides. One, it gives us more information that we then have to digest and harmonize, but also the adversary has that opportunity as well. So one of the NIFs that I lead, Counter C5 ISRT, is all about how do we disrupt, deceive, deny, degrade the other guy's ability to use those sensors to his best effect. And so that's another challenge, that you have to kind of get this offense, defense working at the same time and be able to get the maneuver on both sides of the equation synchronized. Another challenge I think we're obviously seeing is the speed of asymmetry and the effects that we're seeing. We see it in the Red Sea. We see it with a country that has lesser technology, lesser sensing, but being able to throw missiles downrange to really affect our terminal defense capabilities. Fortunately, we have the machines and the technology, and we're getting a lot of the learning, and VCNO has really hearkened in on that learning speed and the ability to take the information we're seeing and how we did in the engagements, get it back to our experts, our WTIs, turn it back around to our crews so that we're that much better the next time around. So that speed of learning that we're harnessing right now is going to be so important if we're unable to deter our peer adversary. And I think that's a key innovation, key disruptive aspect of how we're going to have to fight in the future. And then finally, counterbalancing all of that is the speed or not so much speed of the POM process that Brad Skillman and the rest of us back in the building have to balance against that speed that we're looking at to be able to turn it quickly. And I think the way we think about that in the building is really bringing acquisition requirements and the fleet together so that we're working it simultaneously and not necessarily in a serial process. So I look forward to the questions today, and thank you for attending.
Thanks, KT. Clap.
All right, Skirt, thanks very much. And I pile my thanks on to AFCEA West, USNI, and Mantech for the opportunity to be here. Skirt, thanks for moderating this. Skirt and I sort of chewed a lot of the same turf, as both being former Deputy J3s at Cyber Command and then former both Cyber Component Commanders and Joint Force Headquarters Commanders. So great to be up here with you. And then really with these two gents to my left and right, we're not certainly the whole team, but we are a key piece, really, I think, of how the Navy is trying to deliver these kind of disruptive capabilities and then operationalize them. I think I sort of have a unique perspective on that. So I have 5 separate commands. Fleet Cyber Command is already mentioned. As part of Fleet Cyber Command, that comes with a role as the Joint Force Headquarters Cyber Navy. which comes with some additional responsibilities, and that's actually where I get a lot of my offensive cyber authorities. I'm also the commander of U.S. Navy Space. And while I don't have operational authorities yet for Space Command and General Whiting, there's some serious talk about that, and we're discussing about how we might use the service components to not just deliver capabilities, but then actually operationally employ those capabilities for Space Command. And then I'm also the 10th Fleet Commander, and so when we talk about things like fight from the MOC, foundational to fighting from the MOC is the command and control and the C2 organization that goes with it. And as I have said at numerous forums, you are not going to fight from the MOC without Navy Net Warcom, without NCDoc, without NCTAMs and NCTSs, because otherwise you just have a really cool room with a lot of computers that don't talk to anybody. So that 10th Fleet architecture is critical to that. And then finally, I'm the leader of the Navy Cryptologic Office. And so in that responsibility for the Navy's relationship up to NSA and the military part of the NSA, or the Central Security Service, working for General Hawk, and all of our encryption and protection of the devices that protect our networks. And so across those 5 commands, that basically gets me to either working directly for or supporting 9 separate 4-star commanders. And so I hear a lot from each of those 4-star commanders about these disruptive capabilities that they need and how they want to do that. Obviously, in many of my hats, I work for General Hawk in both his U.S. Cyber Command and NSA director position. I work for General Whiting as the commander of U.S. Space Command. I obviously work for the Chief of Naval Operations. But I also provide the Regional Cyber Coordinating Authority to Admiral Paparo at Indo-PACOM, to Admiral Halsey in Southcom, and then General Brunson at U.S. Forces Korea. And then in the 10th Fleet job, I'm responsible, as I said, for that command and control, that delivering the right data at the right time to the right place in a secure manner for Admiral Cottle, for Admiral Kaler, and for Admiral Munch out in Europe. So when you add all that up, it's 5 commands and 9 4-stars. And so one of the things I try to articulate to my team is we need to stick to what our priorities are and what's important to that force. And from my position, what I think is important to that force is the delivery of 3 warfighting capabilities, and warfighting has been my #1 priority since I've assumed this job. And those 3 warfighting capabilities, they're not support. They are actual warfighting capabilities that are helping us take the fight to the adversary, helping deter the adversary. And that is assured command and control in NC3, battle space awareness to enable long-range precision fires, and then non-kinetic effects. And now we can get into more of that as we go through the panel today. But from my hat, what I think is really important, and KT talked about this, is not just the speed and the agility required to do that, but the expertise, the mastery, and the warfighters, whether they be uniformed or civilian, that are able to integrate and understand all that technology and integrate the non-kinetic side of it, enable the command and control side of it, protect and facilitate the movement and understanding of the battle space to the trigger pullers that are out there, and then, when needed, integrate those non-kinetic effects with the dynamic force maneuver, right? Because that's really where the secret sauce happens, right? If you can't command and control and you don't have understanding of the battle space, you're never going to get to the point where you can integrate kinetics and non-kinetics. But if you can't integrate the kinetics and the non-kinetics, when you start talking about great power competition, and even when you start talking about things like what's going on over in 5th Fleet in the Red Sea AOR right now, if you can't integrate those 2 things together, the calculus to getting to a theory of victory and to a winning solution is much more complicated. So that's kind of our key role, I think, across my 5 commands and with the 15,000 men and women that are part of that warfighting team, is to integrate those 3 capabilities and deliver that capability to the force. And I look forward to chatting with all of you and having a deeper discussion with you on that, because partnerships across the joint force, partnerships across the interagency and with our education and academia teams, and then really most importantly with our industry partners. If we are going to innovate and deliver and integrate those capabilities at the speed we need to and at the locations we need to against the scale of adversaries that we need to, it's going to take all of us. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Clap. Colin, over to you.
General, am I allowed to do the safe thing and just say I agree with these two gentlemen already?
You are a smart sailor, but no, you gotta get out there,
Okay.
bro.
Well, I obviously have a different perspective on things than the two gentlemen to my right because of the nature of what's on my shoulder. But you know, you see what you see by the nature of where you stand when you look. And my lens that I've been looking through has been heavily shaped by commanding a number of LCS on the waterfront, doing a lot of mission package testing, modularity, understanding, you know, what fits, what doesn't fit, what works, what doesn't work. We learned a lot of that the hard way a lot of times. And then watching programs from inception to implementation and how things change so rapidly over the years, and now months, I would even say, and how important it is to remain flexible. In addition to that, I was just coming from the Fifth Fleet area of operation and what we were seeing there and how quickly the adversary is learning, the kind of tactics that they're employing. It's really important for us to create a culture that we can stay agile, study modularity, understand how we can keep up with the adversaries' advances in their technology and respond accordingly. So having been out in Fifth Fleet, we tried at a tactical level, at a much smaller level, to answer to try to enhance the abilities of a lot of our manned assets by incorporating unmanned systems, incorporating artificial intelligence, incorporating machine vision. How can we make our manned assets so much more efficient that we have a much better idea of what's happening in our maritime environment from a maritime domain awareness perspective? And so that's the idea. That's how we went forward. And being able to do that, make mistakes, learn as we were doing it was one of the real advantages of being out at Task Force 59, to be able to have bold leadership that said, okay, we're gonna figure this out as we go, partnered with industry and academia, getting industry partners out there, finding out what works, what doesn't work, and then the challenge, again, and this will probably be a theme, integrating that into our already complex, exquisite systems that we're using. So how do you take those new budding industry tech and incorporate it into the systems that we're working? And come to find out, there's hard to pass data, to pass other information, to get systems to work together, to have the architectures available so that our systems, we can not only talk within a joint force, but also with our partner nations, which is huge, particularly out in the Red Sea right now, to be able to pass information. That's the hard part. Those are the nuts we have to crack. The robots and the tech is incredible, what's happening, but it's all about making those systems work together and then using machine vision and AI to increase that speed of which we can make decisions and employ them. And so now that in my role at the Disruptive Capabilities Office, we've been tasked with finding solutions for warfighters that can happen rapidly within a 3-year period. Before the 2027 window was our original goal, but within the budget cycle is the idea. And that's all about existing tech, things, high TRL level items that already exist, new tech that might be coming out, getting your hands, or maybe just removing bureaucratic barriers and connecting the right hand with the left hand so that we can get after problems, provide fleet identified problems with potential solutions to give leadership an option to make decisions within the budget cycle year that we're looking at. So I am honored to be on this panel with these gentlemen and to be able to hopefully contribute to this conversation. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Colin. All right, so this could be the first time we do this and also the last. So we're going to do what's called a lightning round. These guys have been great. Back to the pain in the ass comment earlier. We're going to do a series of questions. They get less than 5 seconds. We're going to go right down the line and then back the other way. So again, 5 seconds. I got the official clock, gentlemen, and we're going to kick it off. So here is question number 1. Greatest threat to national security today? KT.
Communist China.
Clap.
Yeah, I would say Chinese lawfare activity and the way they're trying to restructure the world.
Colin.
The Chinese stealing
All right.
everything we got.
All right, we're coming back with you, Colin. Your first computer.
Oh, we're going back down here. Dell laptop.
Clap.
An Apple IIe that ran on a 5 1/4 floppy.
Love it.
You probably don't even know what this is, an Osborne.
Uh-oh. Google that. Okay, next one. Back to you, KT. Which adversary's capability development concerns you the most?
I think rapid proliferation in space.
Ooh. Clap.
Yeah, I'm going to say I'm going to go with AI, and it's not the deep seek concern, but it's the ability of our adversaries to use AI to skip generations and rapidly close capability gap that we have.
Colin.
Again, through my little lens, I'm looking at where I just came from. I'm looking at asymmetric threats that are mastering the art of attritable technologies.
Like it. All right, Colin, back to you. Best leadership book you ever read?
Lou Holtz, Wins, Losses, and Lessons.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stick with the sports analogy, and I'm going to go Moneyball.
Ooh.
Loved Moneyball.
KT.
I'm going to go Nimitz at War.
There we go. We got a professional in the crowd. To you, KT, what's the biggest barrier to innovation in warfare today?
Continuing resolutions.
Clap.
That's an innovation. Your question was innovation?
What's the biggest barrier to innovation?
Oh, the barrier to innovation. So I would say the lack of agility in our acquisition process and the inability to bring new capabilities to the operational point.
Good. I know we got all the PEOs here. I think Doug Small's in the room somewhere. But okay. And Colin?
Our own bureaucracy and risk aversion.
All right, Colin, back to you. Top Gun or Top Gun Maverick?
I'm partial to the very accurate depiction of the SWO community in Battleship. Have you seen the movie Battleship?
Well, not one of the choices.
That was one
brother.
of the choices. Okay, I'm going Top Gun Maverick.
All right. Clap.
I'm going to go Top Gun Maverick. Flying scenes were better, and I've flown more of those low levels.
KT.
I'm going to go Top Gun only because I was at Miramar O Club when it was being filmed.
That's a good answer. Okay, KT, to you. What's the most critical factor to ensuring interoperability with allies in the next decade?
I'm going to go with cybersecurity across our allied force.
Yeah, sort of related to that, figuring out how we are going to protect information at the data level so that we can share it broadly and rapidly with our partners.
Same theme. How do we have an open architecture where we can share safely?
All right, Colin, to you. Which technology will shape warfare the most in the next 5 years?
AI.
I'm going to say autonomous systems because of their ability to and the requirement for them to use AI and machine learning and scale rapidly.
KT?
This one's a little off the reservation. But I'm going to go with cryptology more
Whoa.
broadly.
I like it. Here we go. KT, to you. Best ship you were a part of and not one you commanded, and why? 5 seconds.
I'll go with a Ronald Reagan because of the motto, peace through strength.
Clap.
Very good. I'm going to go GW because it was the first nuclear-powered aircraft carrier I was on, and it was an eye-watering jump forward for me.
Colin.
I'll go with my first ship. It had the biggest impact on me. Loved the mission, loved the crew. It was the USS Pearl Harbor, LSD-52, right around just before and after 9/11. So, big impact.
All right.
But the right answer is Theodore Roosevelt, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Carl Vinson.
Of course, that's what they commanded.
I meant
so-
Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah,
See?
Okay.
2 to 3.
All right, Colin, back to you. Most impactful domain in the next 10 years, and you got to pick one. Maritime, land, air, space, and cyberspace. You got to pick one.
Yeah, the pick one part was hard. So I'm going to go cyber.
All right.
I'm going space.
All right.
I'll go space.
Okay.
cyber?
Wow, I thought it was going to be a maritime fight here. Okay, this is my favorite. KT, favorite meal at sea. For all those who know, served on ship, know what I'm talking. Favorite meal at sea.
Sunday brunch.
Yeah,
Oh.
I got to repeat Sunday brunch. Got to be
Yeah.
the best.
I was going to say the lobster tail and steak, but we all know what happens after you get the lobster tail and steak. Some kind of bad news, right? So,
Well-
chili mac.
Usually the Marines aren't on board when you have it, so I know that's a fact. Okay, Colin, back to you. If you had $1 billion to invest tomorrow, where would it go?
Elon.
Okay.
Space capabilities.
Counter C5 ISRT.
Here we go. All right, KT to you. What's the most challenging
many of these do you
operation
have?
you've conducted while underway?
This is a little different. I'm going to go with MCON flight operations before GPS against a peer adversary, the Soviet Union, north of the Aleutian Islands. And you'll get why I said that in the next question.
Wow. Okay.
I'll say nighttime combat flight operations, CVOA 4 on a crappy weather night up in the Arabian Gulf.
Of course, low light level too. Go ahead, Con.
On the other side here, I'd say doing a underway replenishment with an aircraft carrier on a new platform that has never been alongside an aircraft carrier before. That was an interesting event.
All right, back to you, Colin. What is the most challenging operation our Navy will have to perform in the future?
Operating effectively in the WES.
Good.
I'm going to go with what I said in my opening remarks, which is integration of kinetics, non-kinetics to bring increased survivability and lethality.
And I'll go with MCON flight operations in a weapons engagement zone against proliferated sensors.
Okay, and then finally, KT to you. How many cups of coffee per day at sea, over, under 4.5? Over or under?
Before 20 years, under. After 20 years in the Navy, over.
All right, fair.
Yeah. Once I started commanding ships, over.
Okay.
Yeah, over.
Yeah, I figured as much. Okay, thanks for those quick answers. Now we're going to get into some of the deeper questions, and I'm going to break up our time. We're going to use about the next 12 to 15 minutes and then open it up to the audience for the final 15 minutes. So let's start with a foundational question. As we focus on technology, the fact is that people matter most, and thank you for the Copernicus Award winners and recognizing them. The past Deputy Secretary of Defense, speaking at the Royal United Service Institute in London, pointed out that readiness, training, and operational art often outweigh sheer numbers or technology. How can the Navy ensure these foundational elements remain central to its ability to integrate advanced capabilities to include information warfare and fight effectively? KT, we'll start with you.
So I think if you look at the CNO's nav plan, she puts a lot of emphasis on live virtual constructive. It's how we're going to be able to train like we're going to fight. She talks about warfighting competency in there, and it's important for us to be at the best of our game. When we look at our peer adversary and what we're going to have to do in that fight, the knowledge of our systems, to be able to understand the battle space, the ability to turn inside the adversary, all is going to require a ton of reps and sets at a macro multi-domain level. And we're going there. Our advancements in LVC during our Comp2X exercises, the WTI culture that is spreading across every warfare domain, the transparent, critical feedback that we are living every day to make sure that we're better is absolutely where we need to go. We're not going to outbuild our adversary, but we can outthink them and we can outlearn them. And I think that's the cultural change that we're seeing that's going to be necessary to fight and win in the future.
Thanks, KT. Well said. Clap.
So I think this is a really big challenge for the Navy and then information warfare more broadly, right? So, General Hawk talks a lot about this in his vision for Cybercom 2.0, where he talks to us and drives us to try to create mastery. And what I've always said is, we need to build experts. I've been saying that since I was the deputy commander at Fleet Cyber more than 4 years ago. But in information warfare, this is a real challenge, right? There are very distinct skill sets that are required across the domain of information warfare. And within the Navy Information Warfare Development Center and IWITIC, they're very good at some of them. They do not yet have the kind of expertise, WTIs, Top Gun graduates, if you will, in others. And I've talked to Admiral Harding about this. He and I agree, and we are on a drive to do it. But if we are going to have experts in high-end cyber, experts in space, counter space capabilities, experts that are able to use AI and ML in autonomous systems, whether they be in space or all the way down to the seabed, we have to go and look for the areas of expertise that we have in our force, and we do have them. For example, within the cyber force is our cyber warfare engineers. I'm hoping that as we continue to build out our maritime cyber warfare officer community, that they will be a growing and developing area of expertise. But our cyber warfare engineers, these guys are massive difference makers, right? They are a group of officers with advanced degrees in computer engineering, electrical engineering, computer science. And not only do they have those advanced degrees and can they code in multiple languages, but they just get it, right? They are the guys that, like, where, you know, football coaches say you can't coach speed and height, right? Or there aren't baseball players, you can't train to be a Derek Jeter. You just got to be Derek Jeter, right? He elevates everyone around them. But they do that, right? And so that's the for example of what we need in space and cyber and AI and in autonomous systems. We need to find those people that not only do they have the technical skill sets, but they're just better than the rest of us at it. And then when we find them, we've got to formalize their training to turn them into WTIs or whatever we want to call them, and then get them back to the fleet quickly so that they can then try to elevate the rest of the fleet, right? It's a model that we've used over and over again in aviation. Surface warfare is using this. You know, Skirt, as you know, the Marine Corps has used this. And it's a proven model. If we want to bring that kind of expertise and build that kind of expert warfighter mastery, as all the 4-stars say, to the fleet, I think that's the model we need to use going forward.
Thanks, Clap. Well said. Colin.
I think the people is a huge part. That sticking with the little bit of the theme here, making sure we are balancing our investment in new technology, but also into the people that we're charging with operating and employing that technology. Tech is a force multiplier. It is not a replacement for human expertise, right? So I think we really need to stay focused on that. As we start to change our culture to be much more adaptable and able to really evolve as the threat and as the technology evolves, you see a lot of technology evolving so rapidly that it's really hard to keep up with it. So finding a way to train our own people organically, but also finding a way to allow our industry partners to work more easily with us and solve these problems side by side with us. What I did see, particularly while I was out at Task Force 59, is the quick ability for industry folks to have answers quickly and quicker than we could have produce them organically. So being able to leverage that in industry, telling industry what the problem is. Yeah, a lot of people have approached me and said, hey, we can help solve your problems. We just need to have a better understanding of what they are. And so improving our communication with industry on the problem set and letting them, really kind of taking the cuffs off. And academia as well. There's a lot of great work going on in academia that we really could take in harness and use to our advantage. But I had a petty officer working for me, and he was ready to get out of the Navy. But once we brought him over, he was in IT, and once we brought him over to be able to work with some of the systems that we were working with at 59 and the communication pathways that we were exploring to get the systems to work together and to display our operations out in the Northern Arabian Gulf live via feeds of low Earth orbit satellite systems, that really got those petty officers excited. And that particular petty officer decided he was going to stick around when he previously was going to get out of the Navy. If we can capture that excitement, really codify how we train them and take care of them, I think that's going to be really beneficial to us in the future, but really being able to do that is one of our challenges.
Thanks, Colin. Just want to remind the audience, we're going to start some questions and answers from you all. I'm going to continue with another question, but just get ready with your questions as we begin that part of the session. Okay, Colin, I'm going to go back to you. What's the biggest challenge in adopting disruptive capabilities at scale, and how can we address it effectively?
I think overcoming the institutional inertia, and our system was designed to procure exquisite systems, and it's doing exactly. I think it's operating exactly the way it was designed to operate. I think I like to think if we can complement those systems with some more quickly moving processes, I think that would be really beneficial to us as the whole. So, try to get out of our own way on some of these items. It goes back to the innovator's dilemma. How much do you invest? in new technologies, and how much do you invest in our tried and true tech and exquisite systems that we already have? You know, where do you put your money? Are you going to be putting it, into new burdening technologies? Are you going to be putting it into the things that we have been using tried and true? And really balancing that and finding where the line is a real challenge. And but I think it's something we have to explore more. And that's going to help us really answer the bell here moving forward.
Thanks, Colin. Clap.
So I made my comment about the acquisition system, so I'll let that stand. But here's what I think is in our partnership with you guys out there in industry, we're really good at building the next cool thing, right? Space capability, cyber capability, integration capability, whatever it might be. We can build the technology and we can build one or two of them, right? But it's the challenge then is one, the acquisition to scale it. But more importantly, how do we train the war fighters that are going to be operating that beyond just their standard level? So, an example, we will build a new EW capability that has this massive impact on battle space awareness or C5ISRT or whatever it is. And we can get it to a group of operators ahead of the traditional acquisition process. But to build the sailors that are, whether they're CTs or ITs or OSs or whatever their skill set is, that gets them then the training that they're going to need to go to that advanced EW or battle space awareness or cyber system and operate it. And it's a reproducible, repeatable process that will continue to build the foundation and then take that foundation and make them experts. We're not good at that, right? So we just keep saying, well, I'm just going to keep making cryptologists and ITs and et cetera, et cetera. But the mission set and the skill sets that they're expected to have change so rapidly. We just need a better, more agile way of building that training. And I think that's something we can really work with industry on.
Thanks, Clap. KT?
I think the challenge that we face as we look at disruptive capabilities and scaling in the non-traditional sea denial kind of sense, I think it's finding that balance between dirty, dangerous, dull missions and the amount of technology you need to put into something, but then to have enough trust in that system that it can do the mission so that you can scale and get quantity without the cost that's associated with the exquisite. And so finding that ability to get a large amount so you're effective at not too much cost and get it out there. And then think of the whole .mil PF and the logistics piece of it. We sometimes forget that logistics. And that's going to be really critical in this non-traditional sea denial role. So I think it's finding the balance and moving at speed with enough trust of the system and enough artificial intelligence, but not too much that we can't afford the quantity that's necessary to make it effective.
Thanks, KT. And final question, we're going to turn over to the audience, but starting with you, KT. With adversaries rapidly advancing in areas like cyber and electronic warfare, how do we ensure our own disruptive capabilities are not only effective, but also adaptable to changing tactics and technologies?
I think this goes back to Clap's expertise area of cyber hardening. I mean, we've got not only our own, but our allies and partners so we can share the data. More players on the field, a CNO is more of our players, but our allies and partner, and then the access and all of that requires assured defense of our information flow. And so to me, it's about really figuring out this cyber challenge that we have.
Yeah, I think I would agree with KT. It's about protecting our networks down to the data level, then finding a rapid and effective way to share with our partners and allies, right? We don't have a monopoly on the good ideas. Our allies and partners, I see many of them out here in the audience, they bring significant game in these innovative areas, and they can, in many cases, they're ahead of us, and we have a lot to learn from them. So how do we share and protect that data as we share it? And then once we figure that out, how do we scale it? And then how do we build that expertise? It can't be a thing where you sit still. You build a capability, you think you've got it all worked out. It's a cat and mouse game, right? The adversary is then going to figure out, how do I counter that? How do I go back and deny you the use of that capability or that TTP that you have? And so this then turns into this is why people are so important in this, right? It's the operators that have to be able to work with our partners and allies, work with industry, share, adapt, and move the ball forward all the time. As soon as you sit still, you are falling behind and falling behind fast in this world.
Yeah, Admiral Kohler talked about maneuver. Obviously, it's almost an intellectual maneuver as well. Colin.
I'll go back to the modularity and agility. We have to make sure that we are remaining in a position where we can adapt quickly. And we're watching, what's happening in Ukraine. We're watching what the Houthis are doing, and we see how rapidly there's learning going on. Now, how do we take that and make sure that we are poised to move quick enough in order to respond? And so, I had an example when I was in Fifth Fleet. The LCS came out to operate in the Northern Arabian Gulf, and it turned out that they were a great partner with the operations that I was conducting with unmanned systems, because they were so modular and so ready to accept these different technologies and so capable of flexing to be able to support the different mission sets or mission systems that we were putting on board. And so that kind of modularity, I think, is going to be important moving forward. I think, Admiral, you had mentioned our partnerships. We did a lot of partnering. We do a lot of partnering now. Our partners here, they have great expertise that they're contributing. Allowing an architecture that really fosters that is really, really important, not to close out any of our partners. And I think that's just about it. That's okay.
Okay, thanks, Colin. So now here we are. It's your turn, and we'll ask. The microphones are up there in the middle row. So whatever questions form a line, but you don't get a better opportunity to address some pretty incredible leaders than the ones up here on the stage to my left. All right. So first question, sir. I think you're up.
Hello. Hey, gentlemen, thank you so much. Great discussion, sir, fellow Hawkeye aviators. So good to see you. And Admiral Caperton, Admiral Rossmeyer says hello. So he told me don't come back unless you say that. So.
All right.
Sorry, quick question. So you all three of you actually mentioned the importance of speed and partnership. I want to talk about space. That's the other thing that kind of resonated with me. Can you talk about how the Navy is making sure their voices heard with regard to fielding disruptive capability as it relates to space? From a partnership standpoint, we know certain agencies have capabilities that are already on orbit, coming on orbit, that could give the Navy an asymmetric advantage, particularly our limitations, challenges to acquire big capital ships and such. How is the Navy working together with agency partners, with industry partners to make sure we're getting access to disruptive capabilities in the space domain?
You want to go first or you want me to? Okay, so as the Navy Space Commander, so this is thank you for that question, and please tell Monkey I said hello as well. This is something we spend a lot of time on. And the fact that you're asking makes me feel good about our OPSEC and security, because that likely means maybe you're not as familiar with some of the things that we're doing, which is good because it's well beyond the classification of this room. But that's good. Here's what I would say is, we are very aware of what adversaries' capabilities in space are and how they intend to try to counter our tactics, our maneuver, our concepts. As such, we are developing, again, integrated capabilities to take away their ability to use, I'll just use that broad term of their C5 ISRT and long-range fire systems, and ensure that our C5 ISRT and long-range fire systems will, in fact, be available. On our side, it's not just protecting the data at the data level and having resilient and redundant networks. It's also federating the battle space awareness capabilities, federating the long-range fire capabilities through things like KNIFE, TIFES, MTC Alpha, MTC X-ray, Titan systems. You guys are familiar with all those things. On the other side of it, it goes to what I said, right? It is the integration and the layering of all those things, right? So we through the Navy Cyber Warfare Development Group, are working aggressively to accelerate space capabilities to be available. The thing that I've always tried to make sure the force understands is there is no one space capability, there's no one cyber capability, information, or kinetic capability that is going to solve all your problems. And in fact, you have to integrate all those things together in the right order, at the right time, to get the effect that you want against high-end systems. that is then why you need AI and ML. You need advanced modeling and simulation. I think that's another area we haven't really talked about yet this morning, where we have some capability, but we need a lot more of it. And so if we're going to bring those space capabilities forward, we need to understand where they fit in the ecosystem to have the most significant impact. We got to make sure we use them in a way that doesn't fratricide a cyber or a kinetic effect or a communication path or whatever it might be. And then we need to run it through advanced modeling and simulation that takes advantage of AI and ML so that we know, hey, we have 12 things we want to do, and the right order for that 12 and the amount of it, it's like the recipe for a chocolate chip cookie, right? You want the ideal chocolate chip cookie, you got to put the recipe together in the right amounts in the right way. And when you start talking about advanced non-kinetics with dynamic force maneuver, you're going to need advanced modeling and simulation to deliver that. So appreciate that question.
Anybody else?
The only thing I would add to that is it's a joint problem. And so in the building, working with our joint partners and then working with the agencies and the other support groups, having those conversations so that we're investing in the right things and have a layered capability like Clap talked about.
Just one quick addition
go ahead,
as well. And in addition to that is partnering with commercial assets too. We're sprinting, and DCO is sprinting on a effort right now to help improve maritime domain awareness using commercial assets combined with the assets that we already have. So kind of taking advantage of some of the commercial industry that's already out there and existing.
Thanks, Colin. All right, we're going to have to go back to the lightning round format here with all the
right,
folks
60
in line.
seconds or less.
I'm just kidding. We'll go over to this side. Sir, you're up. Uh-oh.
Go to that one.
Hate when that happens.
Hi, Boyle with Consulting. Thank you very much for this panel, the insights they're providing. My question is tied to Admiral Kohler's remarks this morning. He indicated that he's concerned about the integration of autonomous systems into the fleet. And in particular, he broke the problem down into one is focused on integration of the systems together themselves, but the other one that would seem to be more of a concern to him was how do you integrate those systems into the larger command and control structure so that the commanders on the carrier strike group or back fleet at the headquarters can understand the effects those autonomous systems are happening. And I wonder how you guys are addressing that problem from the various organizations that you work in, and in particular concerning yourselves with the security of those autonomous systems as they operate forward. Sorry for the...
Yeah, so I mean, it's developing and ensuring that we have secure and protected pathways to communicate to those autonomous systems, right? There's no such thing as an unmanned or autonomous, right? There's always somebody telling it what to do. It has some periods of time when it can make its own decisions. So you got to make sure the pathway to that is secure and resilient, and you know that it'll be there. Then you've got to have awareness, battle space awareness at the MOC or the strike group or whatever headquarters you're using to integrate it. But I think it's more than just that, right? That goes back to what I just said. You have to have modeling and simulation that helps you understand, and then AI to inform your decision making of how you're going to use that system based on a set of very dynamic circumstances. And it's just integrating so many complex things that it's beyond your memory to understand how to make those decisions in a split second. And so again, if we don't have advanced modeling and sim and AI that is supporting those battle management systems to help the person, the human being in the loop, to make the right decision at the right time, then we will not be able to, one, securely see to them, or two, integrate them properly into the battle space.
The only thing I'll add is I got to spend a couple hours yesterday with Admiral O'Connor over at NAVWAR, and those problems that you're talking about is exactly what we're working on. And I can't really go into great depth here, but we understand those challenges, and fortunately she and her group are working those issues so that we can have that feedback loop that's going to be necessary to integrate them.
Yeah, all I'll share is passing in the information. Jeff, good to see you. You were there when we were doing Digital Horizon, where we took 17 different industry partners, different assets that were speaking different languages, getting them all to contribute to what we refer to as the one single pane of glass, which basically amounts to fight from the mock. So how do you get all the information from all these different assets to talk to each other, be synthesized into a display that is going to help the commander make quick decisions? And so that's the big challenge. I think a lot of the leadership has finally said, okay, the robots are great, the assets are great, but how do we get them to talk? How do we get them to share? How do we get them to share with each other, our international partners? How do you discriminately share that information and then be able to use it to move more quickly? And I think that's the thing we need to be focused on now. How do we, no kidding, get these things out there on the water, operating in the WES, communicating in a comms denied environment, passing information, computing at the edge, being able to do their job even if they're disconnected from the mothership, if you will. And so those are the things I think we need to be hyper focused on now.
Thanks, Colin. Okay, sir, over to you.
Thank you, your admirals. Blake Neal with the SANS Institute. This is with cybersecurity labor force and workforce. From my perspective at SANS, you can see that the military both builds and trains cybersecurity practitioners. However, at a certain point of maturation, industry buys them. And so we're doing to address that, they have a place to go within the military, and we are able to retain them from a services perspective.
Yeah, it's a great question, and that's something that we work at Cybercom really hard on, and it's a challenging problem. I do think in the Navy side, the Maritime Cyber Warfare Officer designator helps us with that. I think, we are looking at ways across the joint force to make sure that the promotion, financial, and incentive opportunities are equal across the force, which helps to do that. I'll tell you though, the cyber warfare technician retention numbers is actually pretty strong. We want more of them, right? And we need to grow that area, but the retention numbers are pretty good. I think we need to be exploring things like tours with industry, because I think that can get us some serious bang with the buck for our buck. Is that the advanced cyber warfare technicians go out in industry, learn from you, you learn from them. They come back to the fleet, so it's efforts like that that can also try to build that expertise. And then, the big thing is we can keep them on target and on mission, right? And there's a group of them that, yes, they're going to want, the money and the challenges that you all can provide them, but there's also a group of them that want to go against the world's best systems and hack against the world's best hackers. And if they do for you what they do for me, then they're probably going to go to jail. So, that aspect of mission and the uniqueness of what they can do is a key piece of it. We have work to do on it, but it's a thing we have to partner with industry on for sure.
PT, anything? Okay. All right, good. Next. Time for maybe two more. Go ahead.
Hello, Peter Goodwin, Vice Admiral Clapperton. I think we crossed paths a little bit. My last stint in active service was Task Group 4 out in Cunha. So, saw some VTCs there. But my question it's related to both what I did there at Task Group 4 and also subsequently in industry. So at Task Group 4, it was analysts and operators. So you really got to see some excellent expertise at sometimes the lowest level of the command. Subsequently,
Just talk really close to the microphone.
Uh-oh.
to just freak everybody out. You'll see a similar phenomena, which is basically individuals are excellent, that may not perfectly align with their pay grade, and very quickly realize, I've been manager of a couple small teams now, that you really need to elevate those people, not only in tactical decision-making, but strategic decision-making, because the cyber world is discrete, and there's a certain rule set that you have to follow based off your environment. And if the people have the expertise, they're going to get you to a decision point a lot faster. So I was curious if there's any sort of research or work that's been done to look into elevating people in, a massive organization like Cyber Command to potentially have some of these really talented folks with that expertise get elevated even to strategic decision making.
So I guess if you start, you're talking like this strategic decision making, right? So that's even above my pay grade, right? So I don't make strategic decisions. My headquarters is operational and tactical in its nature. Now, if you want to talk about elevating exploitation analysts and operators and developers from the small team level up to a headquarters level, in my area, then yes. And so we have a pilot with Nav I4 where we're we have already sent a group of maritime cyber warfare officers through operator school. I would like to get to a point where we send a regular amount of them through either operator or exploitation analyst school, and then that then puts them into the officer side, which most of them in the Navy are on the enlisted side. I also want to expand and have a pilot with both I4 and Naval Personnel Command to expand the number of cyber warfare engineers, and so then that gets that cyber talent into the officer level, right? And then I can ideally rapidly move it from the 02, 03 level up to the 05 and 06 level, which is what I think you're talking about. And yes, we are pushing for that as rapidly as we can.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think we've run out of time, but thanks so much for the interest from the audience. You did your part, and they did their part. So big round of applause for our leaders up front here. Going to need you guys to do more and more every day. Finally, I want to also thank FC International and the Naval Institute, and of course our sponsor Mantech for a great panel. Thanks again, you all. All right, Paul, back to you, and no roasting.
Thanks, sir. Hey, General Glavy, panel members. Hey, thanks for taking your time today and joining us. Covered a lot of ground here today. A lot of work to be done. It's going to take a partnership, public-private sector, to get this done, push everything over the finish line here. But we got to beat our adversaries in designing, adopting, and integrating this technology into the force. So thank you for that. On behalf of the U.S. Naval Institute and AFCEA, I will present each of you with a token of our appreciation here in just a second. It's a Naval Institute breast book, Digital Influence Mercenaries by James J.F. Forrest. And I know that the next time we have this panel and he asked what your most influential book was, it's going to be this one. The answer will be this one right here. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. Lunch is currently being served in Ballroom 6 on this level of the conference center, and then as well as right here in the sales pavilion. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, guys. That was awesome.